Good afternoon to all of our family. Welcome to Doctor in the Chat Room. I am part of your host, Dr. Nicole West, and I have my beautiful co-host with me, Dr. Rhonda Shaw. How you doing today?
Ma'am, how are you?
I'm doing very well, very well. I love those earrings you have on. I wish y'all could see this on the air. She's got these huge cross earrings, and I love them. I might have to steal them from her next time I'm
That's how
at her.
that's how she will get them, people. She will have to steal them.
Yeah, I'm gonna just be honest. I mean, I'm not gonna ask for them because that will give you the opportunity to tell me no.
Right.
So
That's how you do it. Yeah.
I might just have to take them, and then you'll see me, and.
Yeah. And then I'll compliment you and steal them back.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
okay. We can share.
Oh, thank you. See, she's so nice. So we are just excited to have you all back with us on another Saturday afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with us yet again, taking the time out of your busy schedules. I'm going to do our reminder about COVID because it's still here. It is not leaving.
Here.
And in fact, we're working on, is this the third strain, the Omicron? Is that what it's called?
So we had COVID, we had the Delta variant, and then we had the Omicron, and then we have the Omicron stealth that I've just recently read about that they're saying is that they're trying to figure out, or thinking that it may be even far more, contagious or whatever. So
how could that even be possible? I mean, I just can't wrap my head around how something can be more contagious than what we are already working with.
But people are still dying. I mean, we know people are getting sick, but people are still dying.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of people within the last week tell me of someone that has passed away from COVID. And it's sad. And I mean, and I know we're all tired. We all want to just be normal, but
and just
gotta be careful.
Yeah. I think almost every client that I spoke with this week and last week, they were either coming off of quarantine, going into quarantine, or knew somebody close to them that had gotten a positive test. So I mean, it's touching everybody. At this point, everybody knows somebody who has either been positive or impacted in some way by this. So
I was really concerned about, just because of some health things, about getting the booster. And so my doctor did clear me to get the booster. Okay. And so I mean, I've done well. I had a little tenderness, and I felt a little icky the first day, I think, overall I've done well. So I'm glad I've done that. I did not get the flu shot because I have a really close friend that got them both the same day, and that's
right,
kind of difficult, for her. So I just kind of follow suit, not follow suit. I say I will not follow suit. I'll do something different. But when I talked to my doctor about it, my doctor said, well, because of where we are in the year, like flu season starts like she said maybe late September, early October. And we're almost at the end of flu season. So she just felt like I really didn't need to do the flu. Shot. So I only did the booster. So I'm praying that's going to be enough.
I was listening to a news story the other day, and they were saying that it is real. They are recommending a fourth shot now, which would be, technically the second booster. And I wonder if that's what's coming. But she did mention it's not being recommended here yet because the majority of people, I can't remember what percentage it was, but a lot of people have still yet to get even the third. So they can't be recommending a fourth because a lot of people over here haven't even gotten yet the third. So, but I just wonder if that's what's coming, or if we're moving towards every 6 months get the booster. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to follow whatever the recommendations are.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's possible. That's very possible. I'll tell you another thing that my doctor shared with me. was that, I got Pfizer for my 2
Mm-hmm.
vaccines. And then when I got the booster, they only gave the Moderna. And she said research is showing when you mix, you get better, coverage or something. I don't know how she explained it. She went down the line of all of the chemical makeups and the whatever that. And so I was just purging all that because it was totally over my head. So
right.
But I just trusted, I trust her judgment. So, she's the expert, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That may be why my body responded to the booster the way it did, because I got a 3rd dose of the same one, Pfizer. And I wasn't, super, super impacted negatively, but I did have some chills and a low grade fever just for about 24 hours. But that was the first time I had been, impacted by any of the
vaccines. Yeah.
So, but these people know what they're talking about. They've done, I know it hasn't been a long time that we've had to research this stuff, but there has been some intensive research and
it's some trial and error involved.
Yeah.
But this thing hit us like just out of nowhere, so it has to be, but we have to trust the experts, or we should trust the experts. And we're just saying, hey, if you can, get the vaccine. And if you've gotten the vaccine, get the booster. Cover yourself and cover your loved ones and the people that you're around, that you work with, and all of that, because the world seems to be back in full swing.
It is.
In spite of any variant. So, let's just be careful. And I was visiting somewhere last week, and I was in a couple of meetings where no one nearly had masks on. I was like, oh boy. And I was sitting there about to faint in mine, but I wasn't pulling it down for anything.
Right.
So we gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Regardless, use those precautions.
Right. Regardless of how often those mask mandates change or not, I just err on the side of caution.
Just use common sense. Like, when it comes to something like an injection, I understand people wanting to go and get more information and all of that, but a mask, just wear the mask. Man, just wear it. Protect you, your grandmama, and your mom, and your daddy, and come on. And our kids are just really getting sick.
Yes.
Schools are closing again. And I don't even know. I'm trying to understand the rationale behind not just going back to virtual. Well, why do they keep closing? You can probably answer this because you have a child in school.
And so my nephew, who goes to school in New York, last week they shut the schools down and they went virtual for the majority of the week. Yeah. But they were trying to make a decision day by day, which I thought was horrible for working parents, because what do they do in the event that tomorrow you learn at 9:00 at night that tomorrow you're going to have to find something to do with your kids again? So, we can't keep yanking folks back and forth. I understand the urgency and the need to pull kids out, but we got to come up with a better plan. This has been with us for quite some time, and we know it's not getting any better.
Well, and I think parents would really rather be able to send kids to school. It makes it easier for them to get to work and all of that. However, what sense does it make to close schools down like every other week or something?
Right. You can't plan that way.
Like, that's no structure for the kids. Let's just get settled into something.
Yeah, one way or the other.
Yeah, but I don't have to worry about that, so let me shut up. Not one of my problems. Look, I got 99 problems, but kids in school ain't one of them. Ain't one of them. So what are we doing today?
I wanted to tell you a really cute story before we get into. So speaking of, COVID and kids and whatnot, I was talking to Jackson about, getting sick. And I have no idea how we got on this, but I said something about, if you're sick, that's okay. Mommy can take care of you. And then I said, but if I get sick too, we're through, you know, who's
Mm-hmm.
gonna take care of us? Because
Mm-hmm.
mommy can do it. And he said, Grandma Rhonda would do it.
Oh,
You know what? She sure would. I said she put on her
sure would. Tin
yeah,
mask.
yep.
Tin mask. I'd be
Yellow.
over there telling y'all, I'd be texting y'all, it's outside the door.
Yep. Yep. I said, you know, you are absolutely right. We'd be just fine.
Yeah, you sure would be. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
That is so sweet. My Jackson.
Yeah.
Man, brilliant, brilliant child.
Mm-hmm. Too smart for his own good sometimes.
Yep.
So yeah, what we chatting about today?
You know, we haven't just chatted
I agree.
in a while. So you know, we talked about something a little while ago, not necessarily in detail. Actually, we talked about several things.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them I kind of wanted to discuss. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they could all probably have their own show,
Right.
right? But forgiveness was one.
Mm. Yeah.
And I really would like to kind of talk about that a little bit, because you know, when you've been hurt by someone, it's not really easy to just let things go. I mean, the human nature side of us
Yeah.
wants to hold on to it, but when we hold grudges, it only makes us feel worse. And you know, not just emotionally, but you know, when you're in a state of resentment, it can cause your blood pressure to spike, and
Yes.
you know, and just trigger you in so many ways, you know, and release all those stress chemicals that make you physically sick
Yeah.
because you're holding on to something and being grudgeful. And the truth
Mm-hmm.
is, you know, it really doesn't really do any good in any kind of way for
Right.
us, you know, for us. And, you know, as the saying goes, from the burden, pain, and stress of holding on to resentment. Um, so let's talk about forgiveness. Like, what is it? Like, what does it look like?
Yeah.
I remember, I don't know, I always, as a child, had this really inquisitive mind. And I asked so many questions, and I probably got on my grandma's nerves so bad, but she was so sweet. She never, ever made me
Right.
feel like it, right? Like, you know, why is a cabinet a cabinet? Why can't a cabinet be called a drawer? You know,
Right.
but I remember when I was getting older and having grown up in the church and playing in the church, I was at church so much and I heard all these sermons. And every time I heard a sermon about faith, you know, they would say, you know, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a kid, you're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes people say, you got to have faith size a grain of a mustard seed. You know, I've even had people try to show me, demonstrate, look, this is what a mustard seed, if you just have this much faith, but how do you have it?
Yes.
Okay. How do you have it? So I'm thinking about forgiveness, like, what does it really look like? And so in my life, I feel like when I've forgiven, truly forgiven, one of the things that I notice is it doesn't consume me anymore.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, when something really bothers you, you talk about it a lot,
Yep.
it consumes you.
And yes. I
You're
mean, you
totally
get
focused
stuck.
on it.
Yep. Yep. You get stuck in it. Your whole world, all of your thoughts, all of your conversations.
Mhm. It's about whatever it is, or that person, or that thing,
Yep.
or
Yep.
whatever. And one thing that I have to say this, when I really learned how to do it,
Mm-hmm.
the next thing I noticed was the people that I have forgiven don't understand.
Uh-huh.
They don't understand that you're not angry.
Yeah.
Right? They don't understand that when you're being nice, they think you're being funny, for the lack of a better word. They think you're being funny and you're really genuinely being nice. Like, yes, I'm going to say hello. Yes, I'm going to, you know.
Right.
I mean, you know, let's delete Christianity from the equation for a moment. I mean, just as a human being, I just be like, oh, hey, like, didn't kill me any to say hello, you know?
Right.
And probably if there's anything I could do to be beneficial, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But Maya Angelou said, you know, when people show you who they are, believe them. So that's where my boundary comes into play.
Yeah.
Even though I'm being kind, and even though I'm speaking, and even though, you know, I'm just done, and people don't really understand that. They think to have forgiven, or, you know, when you don't deal with them, they think you're angry and mad and holding a grudge. And it's not that way for everybody, but it definitely is for some.
Yeah.
And so for the sake of the topic of forgiveness, you know, because you have a sense of freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. And I even, somebody told me a long time ago, the way that you know you have really gotten over something and that you have really forgiven, because part of holding on to something is wanting that other person to suffer, you know, in the way that they make you suffer, right? Wanting to get them back, or wanting them to have, you know, wanting to have revenge in some way. And someone told me the way you know you are really over it and you have really forgiven them is if you get some sort of chance to quote unquote get them back or to repay them. You don't even
that is a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. That you're okay with foregoing knowing that something bad happened to them. You don't even want anything bad to happen to them. That's how you know you're over it. And I was like, wow.
And here's another thing. Here's an extension of what you just said. And if something were to happen to them, because, you know, reaping is real, right? It's a real thing. So if something was to happen to them, you don't get any glory out of it. As a matter of fact, you know, human to human, you feel for that person.
Right.
You know, to have to go through that, you know. It's like, you know, you don't want anybody to have to suffer or hurt, but you understand that, you know, the word says we reap what we sow, and we can't change it. That's a reality.
Right.
Okay, so that's a really good start, but we have to go to break. We will be right back on 94.7 FM in a moment.
And we are back. Thank you for sticking around on another episode of Doctor to Doctor in the Chat Room. So today we are talking about forgiveness. And that is not always an easy word to understand. It's not always an easy action to take. I've got a couple people that I probably still need to work on forgiving. But it's difficult. You know, here's a question. How do you forgive someone who continues to hurt you? Right? You know, there's that is it Matthew where he I think hold on, I just looked it up. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times. And Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. I mean, I'm working on that. That seems like a big pill to swallow, just to continue to forgive when someone is continuously doing you wrong. How do you do that?
But like I said earlier, it's so freeing. So once you've experienced that freedom, I mean, for me, I don't want to go back. Does that mean I'm able to do it that quickly and that easily every time?
Right.
Absolutely not. Forgiving doesn't mean that you condone what happened, or that the perpetrator is blameless, right?
Right.
It's
Or even
making
that you have to let them back in your life the same way.
there you go. It just means that you are, as a person, as an individual, making a conscious choice to release yourself from the burden. You're releasing yourself from the pain. You're releasing yourself from the stress of holding on to resentment.
Yeah.
Man, if I had figured it out, like if I could go back and do this all over again, no blood pressure issues would I have, right? All of the things that I feel, the health issues that I feel have been stress induced, right? None of that would I have, you know. And it also means that when you can still feel your pain. Hurt runs deep sometimes. You know, it's okay. Give yourself permission to acknowledge and honor the pain that's real for you. That pain is real for you. You know, we tend to say, I don't even know, I don't know why she let that bother her. Why did you let that get, you know, it's real for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that really gets underneath your skin or it pierces your heart, right? So you give yourself permission to feel that pain and you name it. You call it by name. My grandmother used to say that all the time, honey, you call that devil by his name and you know, my guy grandma used to say that all the time, you know, and as now that I'm older, I get it because, you know, whether you've hurt yourself, because sometimes, you know, people are dealing with, you know, addiction, they're doing things to themselves. So, or whether you're being hurt by another, allow yourself to be honest and simply just say, just name what it is, feel your pain. And, you know, that might include guilt, that might include shame. It could be grief, it could be sorrow, it could be confusion, it could be anger, it could be a whole lot of things. But as you're considering like the act of forgiveness, any of these feelings can come up. So be real about it, acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Call it what it is. I got a Facebook friend. She hashtags all of her posts with let's call it what it is, baby. So let's just call it what it is. So that we can deal with what it is. And then after you do, that's when you have to be really intentional about like flipping the focus.
Yeah. I love that you said forgiveness, because a lot of people, and myself included, I thought forgiveness was condoning something bad that someone did to me. I used to think it was letting them off the hook.
It does feel that way. It does feel that way. I think, you know how grief has stages?
Yeah.
I think forgiveness kind of does have its own, you know, set of stages, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of them is, you know, if I do, I'm letting this person, I'm letting them, no, you're not.
Right. Right. But I think that's what a lot of people equate forgiveness with, which is why it's so hard to forgive, because it gives the impression that, oh, well, then that means that what they did was okay. But that is not what forgiveness means. It isn't what forgiveness means. It is an awareness that you were harmed, you were hurt, but it's also giving yourself permission not to carry that with you for the rest of your life. That person still did wrong, but you don't have to be negatively impacted by their wrongdoings for forever and a day.
So when I try to flip the focus, what I have to do, and I've talked about this on other shows before, but I always give that example of, if you were walking outside somewhere and you ran across a person, it was 30 degrees outside, you know, I give that example. They were out there with no clothes on and they were talking all this smack or whatever. You would just kind of be like, oh, something's not right with that person. And you would kind of keep going and you wouldn't even give it any attention or anything, right? I always give that analogy. But here's something that's hard to do, but it works. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. Consider who they are, what they are, what their traumas may be, okay? What their life's experiences may be. And I don't mean this in a facetious way, but my grandma would say this too sometimes, you know, so-and-so's just doing the best they can with what they got.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, if a person, think about a person that would go out of their way to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Think about a person that all their focus is how they can make somebody else's life miserable.
Yeah.
Or how they can ruin the occasion, or I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Right? I can't even imagine. That's so much work, it seems.
Right.
And because it's exhausting to even deal with that type of person, right?
Yeah.
But if you can put yourself in that other person's shoes and you can say, well, I know that Nicole, you know, has dealt with so much trauma. That doesn't, I'm not condoning what she's done to me.
Right.
Right? She's not blameless.
Right.
She did these things to me and they were wrong. But I'm going to forgive her, and then I'm going to set my boundaries.
Right.
And move on.
Yeah. I like that, because I think sometimes we miss certain, like you said, there's some stages in forgiveness. So let's say you've been in a relationship, you know, a family relationship or a romantic relationship or friendship with somebody who has repeatedly done things to you. There are those stages of, you know, you might feel guilt for pulling yourself away from that relationship, or shame for not recognizing, you know, their patterns sooner, or for making excuses for them, because we tend to do that for loved ones. And you might feel some resentment and some anger about how often I made an excuse for this person, or how I kind of continued or enabled their bad behavior. And sometimes I think that's what makes it harder to forgive too, because we've got a little bit of responsibility in it.
Better say it. Yes, we do.
We do. We do.
We do.
And I think that's what makes it hard, because then we have to admit to ourselves
that we enabled, or we, no doubt.
Yeah.
You know, when my dad was on a couple of weeks ago or whatever, I talked about how one of his characteristics, and I said, you know, I'm getting good at it, but I really have to practice it.
Yeah.
So that's how forgiveness is too. Like, you just have to be patient with yourself, because forgiveness is a practice. It's a real practice. Okay. So, you know, because I've noticed that I've really thought I was there and had forgiven someone, and I found myself drawn back into same scenario, or same, you know what I mean? And there I was trying to recuperate and bounce back all over again, you know. And most of the time it's because I've lifted a boundary for some reason.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's because I've lifted a boundary. Because it's kind of like safe driving. You know, we tell our kids, and you haven't gotten there yet, you know, you got to learn how to drive for you and the other drivers. You got to be, you know what I mean? And so, you know, when it comes to forgiveness, you know, I got to remember, okay, I may have this heart to do this or whatever, but I'm still dealing with that person. That's who they are. And if I lift this boundary, they may walk through.
Yep. They may completely karate kick it open if you give them the invitation to. Yeah.
You know, we talk here a lot about self-care and therapy and that therapy is what we do. Like, we do our own, we go to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in therapy once, and I wish I could remember. I hope I don't mess this up. He talked about offense and, being able to have the gate, to open or whatever. So he was saying putting up boundaries is kind of like that. You don't have to like block everybody and everything out.
Yeah.
You have it where you can open up and let people in, and, you see what I'm saying? Like when you feel safe to let someone in or whatever, but you can keep them out when you want to keep them out.
Yeah.
And we have to really be honest. I mean, like you say, whether it's family or friends or romantically based or whatever, this is a part of life. Like, forgiveness, having to forgive people is a part of life. I don't care how much people love each other. Sometimes people hurt each other, whether intentionally or unintentionally. It happens.
Yep. Part of the hard part, I guess, about relationships is if you have to back away from one, or if you have to lose one. I think part of the hard thing is grieving the idea of what that relationship could have been or should have been, or the future template that you had for this relationship. We were going to be best friends forever, or this person was going to be the godmother of my child, or best man at my wedding. Part of the hardest part, I think, of really acknowledging the need to forgive and move on is, how do I grieve what once was, or what
was going to be, or what you hope to be.
Yeah. That's a huge loss.
No doubt.
Huge loss. And then you might even find yourself mad at the person for messing up that future template that you had for the relationship, because it seems
So the grief thing for me, I've had a couple of things happen, like a loved one, someone that I cared about deeply who's passed away. That's probably been my deepest hurt, right? That I've experienced. So I got this little thing that I do where in my mind, I say, I compare, I measure things by that. And I tell myself, like, this hurts, this doesn't feel good. But you remember that was like, you thought that was impossible to bounce back from. And look what you did. Look how you made it through that. You can make it through this. And I only share that because I think part of this process is finding what works for you. As with many things in our lives, we have to figure out what works for us. If I'm trying to lose weight, you can tell me all day what you do, and it may not do anything for me. Yeah, you have to find what works for you. And that works, the grieving part of it, and what I may feel like I'm losing in setting a boundary or forgiving and moving forward without a thing or a person or whatever. The grieving part of it is that's a real piece of it too. And you have to find a way to manage those feelings. And I think it's just like we said with forgiveness, you give yourself permission. And we've said this over and over. I think you say it probably every show. Feel what you feel. Go on and feel what you feel. It's okay. You're a human being. And it hurts when people that you thought should care for you and protect you and love you and all of that, and they don't.
Right.
And they seemingly do things that say, I don't even care. I don't even like you. I don't even love you. I don't even, nobody wants to feel that way for, by someone that they love. And, like my dad was saying, one of the hardest lessons that he learned was just learning how to love people that didn't love him back or whatever. That's That's a real lesson. Yeah.
It really is. It's one I'm still working on.
Me too.
When you mentioned comparing, situations, it reminded me of something my sister told me when I was in high school. I had just, broken up with, the high school boyfriend, the person I was calling, oh, my first love, blah, 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 and thought, I'm never going to get past this. I'm never going to get over this. And I remember her saying, just you wait. She said, I hate to tell you this, but I need to tell you this. She said, there is plenty more heartache out there waiting for you.
Yeah.
Just wait. And this too shall pass is, what she was really trying to get me to understand. But in the midst of it, it feels like the world's gonna end.
Yeah.
But as you grow and you mature and you experience life, like you said, other things happen and you're like, oh, that was a cakewalk. If I did that, I can do this. I can do, whatever's ahead of me, I can do that too. But yeah, in the midst of it, it feels rough.
I wish I could remember what the name of this study was and who did it, but there was a study done that found a correlation between traits of mindfulness, practicing mindfulness and forgiveness. And the study showed that basically the more you practice mindfulness, the more you strengthen your capacity for forgiveness.
Oh, wow. See, now that I had not, you just taught me something new. I sit and push mindfulness to my clients. We practice it together, and I've always told them the benefits of it, but never actually heard it related to forgiveness.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a study that showed that. And we are already at break. Hey guys, we'll be right back from break on Doctor to Doctor in the chat room in a moment. And we are still here on 94.7 FM. We are talking forgiveness. See, I told you that this could be like all of the things that we mentioned could be like their own show. We haven't even talked about any of the rest.
Right. There's always just, because we talk about life stuff so much, and all of it could really be its own show.
Yeah. So we've got to practice mindfulness in order to strengthen our, I'm going to call them our forgiveness muscles.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I think we have to also be aware and practice self-regulation skills. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting, I always used to think of self-regulation as like controlling one's body, right? Like, you think about a kid that you would call hyper or has a lot of energy. When I used to think about self-regulation, I would think about it in that context of being able to, control the amount of energy that you are demonstrating. But it's also controlling your thoughts, controlling your feelings, and controlling your actions or your behaviors. But I didn't always think about self-regulation as controlling my thoughts. But it makes a lot of sense because the way that you think impacts the way that you feel, which impacts what you ultimately do.
That's
so if you're spending all this time thinking about something or ruminating about something, that's definitely going to have you dysregulated, especially if it's not something good or if it's not something that makes you feel good. So we just have to be mindful of that too, like just regulating our thoughts and our emotions.
So here's a little exercise that I started doing. I mean, so many years ago, but I don't always do it. I think I'm more intentional about it the older I get, right? But I don't know, it could have been 15 years ago. I had an uncle, maybe 20. I had an uncle. I would tell him how something was making me feel. And he said, when those thoughts come, you should stop right then and whisper a prayer and say, God, please remove those. I don't want that. You take that. That's what he told me. I don't want that. You take that. Yeah. And, it was really a powerful strategy. Because I shifted my focus.
Yeah.
My mental focus shifted as soon as I did that. Now, sometimes you can be dealing with people that are just gonna keep nudging and prying and and poking and prying and and all of that. So it may be a little difficult to do that little exercise, and then somebody keeps on and keeps on and keeps on, right?
Yeah.
But no, and I say that to say that if you're in that kind of situation, it's probably better you self-regulate by removing yourself altogether, is what I'm saying. Yeah. But I promise you, you can control, we can't control our initial thought. Right. Yeah, my friend Patrick, we talk about this a lot. When something happens or something comes up and that first thought that you have about it, it ain't nothing you can do about that. Right. Yeah. But from that point on, you can manage your thinking.
Yep.
You can manage it. And I get really angry, honestly, I just being really transparent, I get really angry with myself if I allow someone to, kind of take me there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of been a minute since I've really been taken there. And I like this feeling. I like this feeling of not going there. I like this feeling of doing what you told me some time ago. Let other people's stuff be their stuff.
Yeah. That's hard to do too sometimes.
Oh, though. It's hard to do, but but it's so freeing if you can do it. It's freedom.
Yeah. If you could, and so maybe here's the thing that I constantly need to remind myself. You can tell yourself anything, right? You can give yourself any kind of advice, like let people's stuff be their stuff. And kind of like mindfulness, your mind is going to wander. It's just designed that way to multitask, really to keep us alive. But the moment you forget, it's okay. And you don't necessarily need to judge yourself. And I guess I don't need to judge myself for forgetting and almost going there. I just need to, the moment I'm aware that I forgot and I'm almost letting someone go there, that is the moment that I need to remind myself, let people's stuff be their stuff.
That's what mindfulness looks like. It's ongoing. It's like, it's work. So it really is. And so if you're having like a smooth sailing day and you're not, in an environment where, that prompts stressors and stressful things and, people that might trigger you in some type of way, if you're not in that kind of environment, you just go through your day and you don't really think about these little exercises and practicing this, that, and the other. But it's almost like, I'm getting ready to go to church. What's my little tool or where I take, I got grab my Bible up, right? Or whatever. So, I'm getting ready to go to work. I grab my computer. I get all the tools I need to do my job at work. And so if you're going into situations where you may be triggered, I take all those little that toolbox, and what those toolbox, my dad said, I got one that I prepare, and I got one that God has for me. I got a wrench in here for this, a wrench in here for that. I love that, right? So it's probably best to just take up that whole armor toolbox. And carry it with you. Unfortunately, it's the world in which we live. Yeah. And the battle choosing is really profound too. It's so profound. I mean, when you really give it some thought and say, now, if I were to really buy into this, how does it benefit me other than maybe telling somebody off or speaking my mind or whatever?
Temporary satisfaction.
Temporary satisfaction. I love that. Yeah.
And it feels good at the moment.
In the moment.
But once you think about it and you've calmed down, you're like, oh, I really didn't need to give it that much energy.
So you ever done that in a situation and like you were really genuinely unbothered by someone, okay? And you notice how it impacted them. And they were just infuriated that you were not, like, you weren't pretending to be unbothered. Like you were unbothered, and they really just kind of made themselves look.
Yeah. Because they wanted you so bad to be bothered.
And they were so accustomed to you being bothered. And they don't understand, because they're like, oh, I know how to get her. I know how to trigger her. I know how to get him. I know what makes him tick. And then all of a sudden they can't make them tick anymore. They don't do it, and they don't understand.
And maybe that's what we were talking about the other day. When you give it to God, that's how you can be unbothered. But truly giving it to him and not just saying it for me is difficult. But I love that story that you told about, you know, a single mother, not sure where the next, you know, where this or that is going to come from. And you said, you know, a bill would come and it would be, you know, this one's for me, this one's for God.
I had to sort them that way because I couldn't do anything with it.
I love it. I just love it.
Yeah. And you know, but when we were talking about that, you know, I was telling you, I understand that faith without works is dead. You know, but sometimes, as my sister cousin told me today, sometimes, you know, when you've just done all you can do, you just really do have to let God have it. And sometimes that's situation, sometimes that's things, sometimes that's people. And you know, when you love people, when you have become emotionally attached to people, it's really difficult to do. So we're not talking about something that's easy to do. And you know, and when you don't have an emotional attachment with somebody that you feel like you should, that's difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's even more difficult when you strive so hard to separate yourself from a toxic relationship or friendship, and that person doesn't quite understand why it needed to happen, or they're still going on, you know, about their foolishness and not really, I don't know.
Well, now you're kind of, because I had a psychiatrist on the show. I mean, the show is like 2 years strong now. So this has been a little over 2 years ago. And I was saying something about mental health, and then I said something about mental illness, and she was like, now we're talking about two different things, right? Mental health is one thing, you know, mental illness is another. So when you start talking about that, you're moving into something else now. You're moving into one of our favorite topics, and that's the narcissistic behavior. Because, you know, it's not that they don't understand why. They're not accustomed to you being able to detach yourself from them.
And it doesn't serve any of their needs.
Absolutely. So, well, no, I don't know. I have to kind of halfway disagree. I feel like the relationship, you know, it gives them all of their
supply,
their source and their supply. It gives them all of theirs. And that's what you're taking away from them. Is their supply. Because if someone operates in chaos and messiness, pettiness, and all of that, if that's what they thrive on, and you remove yourself and you don't buy into it anymore, then you're taking away their supply. So they get it. They just didn't think you would have the strength to
and
do it. That's what's mind blowing.
Yeah, yeah. And I have even, had a very, very good friend that I had to pull away from because it
Mhm,
was, just constant kind of that type of behavior that we were talking about. And never really understanding the severity of it, of,
mhm,
of the bad behavior, or
mhm.
never really owning up to it or
The
taking accountability.
ownership, it's the
Yes,
ownership. Mhm.
yes, yes.
Been there, done that. Mhm.
And I've had to literally pray for years for God to help me detach from that relationship. And you were talking earlier about just how hard it might be to separate yourself from a loved one or someone that you've had a friendship with for years. But there is so much freedom when you finally get there, when you don't have to rationalize their bad behavior, when you don't have to make excuses for them anymore, when you stand up for yourself, when you implement boundaries and you mean it,
Yes,
even
because
even though
see, I'm not keeping a log, right? In a
right,
friendship or anything, but but it's not difficult to tell that I'm pouring more into it than you.
yeah,
And that you are the one that's really benefiting from this.
yeah,
And I'm the kind of person, and I think you have learned this about me. I struggle with asking like for help
yes,
or anything like that. I mean, I know a lot of people like that. But now if I ask you,
mm-hmm,
I need you,
yeah,
like probably pretty badly.
and probably like a week ago.
Probably like a week ago. Exactly. So, if I can't depend on you in those rare, very
Mm-hmm.
rare instances where I may say, hey, can you just, something. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
It took me a long time with that. And I was like, life is a trip. People are a trip. And no, when it no longer serves you,
mm-hmm, yep,
just let it go. I mean, I don't know
yeah.
how TD Jake said. He's like, let them go. Let them go.
Right. I saw this T-shirt. I think I might have sent it to you, it was a while ago, or maybe you sent it to me. But it said, um, "God, I gave it to you. Do your thing."
Do
you
your
know, I,
thing.
I
There you go.
finally let it go. Finally gave it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time for you to do your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just think it's forgiveness is difficult. It is a process, but once you do it, and the people that you have to forgive, um, you know, I think probably most of the time we don't sit down and say, "Look, I forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm moving on, detaching from this." I don't think we sit down and have those conversations
Right.
many times. We just do it, right?
Yeah.
And then so for the other person, they're like, what is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I not able to, get on the inside anymore?
Right.
And why am I not able to ruffle his or her
Mm-hmm.
feathers? And that alone to me, if it makes you angry, then
Mm-hmm.
I'm not hurting and upset.
Right.
That alone is my cue that I should have been gone.
Right. And that you did the right thing. You
Did
made
the
the right
right thing.
choice. Yeah. Because it takes so much energy to, well, and what they say, misery loves company. I mean, that is the truth. So many people are hurt and broken and not healed from whatever happened to them. And like you said, it's not an excuse. It is a reason. It explains things, and it is still their responsibility as an adult.
There you go. It's
Better.
their responsibility.
Yeah.
And, people, if you can, back to what you said earlier, if you can take ownership, right? You
Hmm.
take ownership, then behind that is probably going to come an apology,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But back to then the narcissistic behavior, those people don't take ownership.
Nope. Nope.
So they're not going to apologize.
No.
And we probably got about a minute left. So
Lord, that
I don't know
just
where this time went. It went
right.
somewhere.
I was thinking that. Now, these chats are just so good to
Yeah.
do. I bet a lot of people are, you know, going, yep, and
Mhm.
thinking about all their some friendships and relationships that they've had that sound,
Yeah, guys, take care of yourselves, because these things like this make you, lose sleep, and
yep,
then you don't feel good physically and you're not
yep,
feeling good mentally. Take care of yourselves. We got enough going on,
absolutely.
that'll just add to it. I say all the time, there's some disguised blessings in this pandemic, because it certainly
Mhm.
has put things in perspective for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Guys, we thank you for coming back, sharing this hour with us another Saturday. And we hope that you will come back next Saturday, the same chat channel, same chat time on 94.7 FM, Dr. to Doctor in the Chat Room with Dr. Rhonda Shaw and Dr. Nicole West. We will see you then.